We try to have it be a family atmosphere. Our assistants, our team, everybody is great. We have built a great working relationship with everybody over the years. That kind of doing what we say we're going to do is really a foundation of our business. And we try to get that out to people in every aspect of the business. So we really feel like that's kind of a cornerstone of who we are. I think it comes back to what we learned from our father and uncle who started the company in 1971.
Something called the Great Recession or the Great Financial Crisis, whatever you want to term it, came. We had executed a substantial buyout of the company. And then the world started going down and down and down. And Dad and Milburn, our uncle, put money back into it to keep it alive, which brought them back into the company. And then, we recapitalized the company. So anyway, there's been different levels of where we stand and how it's done.
For the most part, when you go back forensically and look back at them, it wasn't nearly as bad as you thought it was. Really, the Great Recession, we had some that we were bringing checks for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to every closing. So, inherently, I don't think any of those were bad real estate deals. And so I think it was a timing thing. So I think this industry, and I think business at all, is so much, it's about hard work, but it's about who you know and the relationships that you meet and leveraging those relationships. It would be something between that and something that I've seen one of our partners do very well is use other people's money as much as you can. Take a little piece. Don't put all of your nest egg at risk. Put a little bit in and find somebody else that believes in your dream and repeat that. Make other people money and increase your little stakes. Get out and know as many people starting in college, because I look now at how many, bankers and lawyers and, just people that we can reach out and touch. And I think the more, the better.
Welcome to the Builder Straight Talk podcast with your host, Michael Creasa. Get the unfiltered truth from the trenches of construction, real estate, and funding. This episode is made possible by our parent company, Sound Capital. Funding built for builders.
Well, hey there, friend. It's Michael Creasa here, the host of Builder Straight Talk, and welcome to this week's edition. And I'm pretty excited to say that I had a wonderful conversation with Chris and Clif Poston, and they're second-generation builders with Traton Homes out of the Mideast. And I got to tell you, the story talks about how they took over the company and how they've scaled to over 1,000 homes per year. The size of that is just phenomenal, but they built it all on the key principles of faith, trust, and you remember the old days where you could shake your hand and your word was your bond? That's what these guys are about. I got to say, it was a fascinating conversation and sharing their insights, the pain points, the things that kept them up at night. And I think you, as a spec builder, if you're looking to learn how you can scale your business, there was a lot of wisdom to share by these two guys. So before we get started, please, to cut through all the noise, I need your help. Subscribe to the podcast. Please take a moment, use your thumb and hit that like button and leave a comment. That is the only way that we get found in the sea of content that is out there. So once again, pretty pleased with the cherry on top. Even if you didn't like the episode, even more important, but please subscribe, comment, and hit that like button. So let's dive into this week's episode, a wonderful conversation with Chris and Clif of Traton Homes. Well, gentlemen, I have to say gentlemen loosely, but with all respect at the same time, if there is such an accolade, I'm excited to have you on the call today for a number of reasons. One is the stellar performance that you do. Your reputation is just crazy excellent. Crazy excellent. Is that even in the Oxford Dictionary? I was talking to Chris prior to you coming on, Clif, and I just said it's been so much fun in the time that we spent together that, and I mean this with all sincerity, you guys are just fun, number one. You seem to be really dialed in with your assistant and putting this call together. And the other thing, you just strike me as being straight shooters, that if there was a mantra to live by, you would extend your hand, shake hands, and your word is your bond, which is something that is almost becoming extinct in business, not just in building, but in business. So I'm going to step out on a ledge and say, I think those are qualities that accurately sum you guys up, that you like to have fun, you're honest, and it's about doing the right thing. Is that a fair assessment? And I noticed Chris is blushing a little, so maybe I should turn down the compliments a little bit.
It's probably hot in here.
Yeah, it is a little warm in here. I appreciate you saying that. I mean, I think it comes back to what we learned from our father and uncle who started the company in 1971. I think we try to have it be a family atmosphere. Our assistants, our team, everybody is great. We have built a great working relationship with everybody over the years. And I think that really the kind of doing what we say we're going to do is really a foundation of our business. And we try to get that out to people in every aspect of the business, from our employees to the marketing side, to the sales side, to dealing with our vendors, to dealing with the public when it comes to buying land and rezoning. So we really feel like that's kind of a cornerstone of who we are. So I appreciate you saying that it comes out and talking to us, because it's very important to us.
I'm going to pin that one because I want to come back to, actually, we could call that the corporate culture and how you instill that in your employees. Because it's one thing for you to do it as management, owners of the company, but it's another to get that message down that they actually buy into it, believe it, and follow it through. But let's just pin that for now. What I'd like to explore is being two brothers. Before you got into building, was this already predetermined? Like your parents were whispering into your ears that you're going to be taking over the company? Or was there another career path tentatively in the mix, and then building kind of evolved from that?
I guess I'll say it was never said this is where you're going to be. I know I had dreams of being a professional football player, being a lawyer, maybe being a doctor. And then I realized I wasn't athletic or smart enough to do any of those. And so I ended up here. But we did both encouraged, pushed, told to go work somewhere else for a year so that you weren't directly working for your family, the whole time. Experience work for somebody else. Now, I did work for a company that the family owned, but did not have any family working there. So I worked under a general manager. But so I mean, and some people ask that about our children, and there's never been a expectation set that you are going to work here or you have to work here. But it's kind of like, hey, if you see what we do, and I told my son that the other day, because he was like, well, I assume I'm going to do this. And I was like, bud, I know you look at what we do and think it provides lots for our family, but I said, you need to do what makes you happy and what you like doing. And I think we both ended up here because it's what we understand. It's what we know.
I did banking for a few years out of school, but I do think it was kind of in our blood. I mean, we grew up, walking houses on the weekends, fighting over who was going to get this room, who was going to get that room, and, just where we were going to put the swimming pool and all those things. And then we both worked, for the company on summers growing up, and, weekends when they're just, we needed sod laid or fences painted or, something that we had the ability to kind of pitch in. So it's kind of in your blood, I think. And so it'll be interesting to see if it's in the kids' blood. My two girls have kind of gone in different directions. One's going to be an attorney, actually a real estate attorney. So we'll see. There might be some overlap there, but it'll be interesting to see how our kids, but I think I've echoed to my kids the same as Chris did his. Hey, if you want to do it, we're certainly happy to talk about it, but feel absolutely zero obligation and do what makes you happy.
Yeah, I think you have to cultivate that interest, like introducing it to them. As Chris was saying, wasn't forced in you, but then if it's something that you discover on your own time, you get to play on the job site, see what people do. And if that fire is there or that spark is there, it fans that flame. And then it becomes something that you want to do because, again, going back to what you guys do, you've got that work ethic and you can't force that. So if they genuinely want to do, follow in their parents' footsteps, following you guys, then you get to guide them and instill that philosophy that you have. And it's like a culture. They're actually coming into that culture. And I don't think you can force that on somebody.
I think you're right. 100%. Yeah. You got to love it.
So as brothers, did you both arrive at the same time to the family business? Did one get there before the other?
I got there a little before Chris did. So I'm 4 years older than Chris is. So I did my little stint in banking. I think his first year out, he was working with our other company, our stair and millwork company when I started. So I think I've been here, Chris, maybe 4 or 5 years more than you, 4 years more than you. I lose track.
I took an extra year at college.
University of Georgia. He enjoyed an extra football season. So, I came in on the land side, which I think we talked the other day. I still am involved in the land side, and that's kind of where I came up through the land side, and so that's where I got started. So, I'm a few years ahead of Chris, but we have been here both a long, long time. So it feels like we've been here a long time. So it's a hard business.
Funny. He came in on the land acquisition side. I don't think you ever did much development. I came in on the land development side, and I tell, again, funny things of your kids talking about your business. When my son was much younger, he was like, Dad, you don't take tools to work. And I was like, but I don't actually build anything. I was like, I know land development. He goes, well, do we have land development equipment? I said, well, no, I can't actually drive any land development equipment either. So anyway, just kind of funny I tell everybody we have a home building company and you don't actually want me physically building your house. I'm very good at kind of how everything goes together to make sure we deliver good homes. Clif is great at buying great land to make sure we have good places to put homes. And then we employ people who are very smart in how to construct the home and have it be the best home it can be.
Amen. Chris is a little bit handier than I am.
Yeah, what you were saying earlier, you could have been a great doctor if it wasn't for 12 years of schooling in between.
Exactly.
When you guys took over the reins, I'm kind of interested in this because it's a family business. Tell me about, is there a formula? Is there a buy-in, a buyout? What does that succession plan look like when you take over the company? Is your father still involved with it? Is there family equity still involved with the company? Because again, from a builder's perspective, people that are new to the call that may be in a similar position where they want their kids to come in, you don't want to just give them the business. Somehow they have to earn a position in it, either, through sweat equity by working there, or they pony up some money. But what was that formula for you guys, or the pathway for you guys?
That's a deep question right there. It's multifaceted because something called the Great Recession or the Great Financial Crisis, whatever you want to term it, came. We had executed a substantial buyout of the company, and then the world started going down and down and down. And Dad and Milburn, our uncle, put money back into it to keep it alive, which brought them back into the company. And then, we recapitalized the company. And so anyway, there's been different levels of where we stand and how it's done, but it was always a form of us growing the company to buy them out of it, not wholly. So they are still involved, and they come in every day, and we kid them to their faces. We currently call them our chief second guessing officers. They are here, and very integral parts, their knowledge of driving around land and seeing things that most people don't see when they're looking at a piece of property are still invaluable to us. And again, they're here just about every day still.
Yeah, we kid them that we celebrate our collective successes, but we lament our failures. So we give a hard time with them. So they keep us straight, but they are a great sounding board and bring a world of experience. So they have kind of, on the land side, they are a huge asset to my land team because they get out, scout deals for us. Or we have deals that are on, metropolitan Atlanta is a huge area to cover. And so that's kind of their daily routine as they get out, check on things and help us bird dog land. But I guess between the two of them, they've got over 100 plus years of experience in the industry, just the two of them. So it's great to have that perspective.
Having that wealth trust, of experience at your fingertips is great. And also knowing the fact that it's a family business, so they've got a vested interest in seeing you guys succeed. What a wonderful formula that is. That they're probably your biggest fans and supporters, and probably the biggest pain in the ass to make you guys get up in the morning and work.
Yeah, and I going into that family business and the meaning behind the companies, and we did a TikTok trying to get this out there. The name Traton is a family name. It is a combination of my uncle Milburn's daughter Tracy and then Clifton. So Traton is where that name came from. So as they say, as odd as it sounded in the first years, Traton, it's like that name's been around forever now.
Well, I get to scrap that one off the list. That was the next question I was going to ask you because I had no clue how you put that together. There was something you just said, Clif, about avoiding the mistakes. Like you pitched a question to me. In all the years that you've been doing, your construction and stuff, has there been a project that you guys came up to and you thought, hot diggity, it checks all the boxes, let's green light this. And then as you got into it, you thought, man, we shouldn't have got out of bed this morning.
Michael, we have been very fortunate. There have been projects that have been more successful and less successful. I think as we try to look back forensically over the years, I think we have been, and I'm not going to wood as I'm saying this hard, I think that we have been pretty blessed that when you're in the midst of something that seems a neighborhood that feels like it's not going well, it's, oh God, this is terrible. And then for the most part, when you go back forensically and look back at them, it wasn't nearly as bad as you thought it was. And so, to go past really the Great Recession, we had some that we were bringing checks for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to every closing. So, inherently, I don't think any of those were bad real estate deals. And so I think it was a timing thing. So I think we've been very fortunate that our track record of success. Now, has that kept us from being a little bit more aggressive? It probably has. But I think that as I look back, there have been winners and there have been losers, but we've been pretty fortunate through my 32 years now. And Chris is 8 years or whatever it is. And most of that, we've had a pretty good track record of success.
You strike me, Cliff, as the kind of guy that there would never be a mistake. You would treat it as a learning opportunity for what not to do next time.
So I could certainly get down on some of these things, but I think you have to. I mean, this is a hard business. We've had a couple of days back to back on we've got probably 25 deals in the works right now in some form of entitlement or permitting or something. And I mean, it feels like something has gone south on at least 10 or 12 of them in the last 48 hours. So it is a very difficult business. So I find, and I'm probably on the optimistic side of our whole group here as far as, hey, things are going to work out. Let's do this on the land side. So I think you have to be that way because there is, nothing. The one thing you can be certain of in this industry is that whatever you planned is not it's definitely not going to happen. It's going to be some variation off of that. And I think you just got to acknowledge that going in and know that you're going to have to roll with the punches on these things and be somewhat flexible. So, but yeah, you got to do that. I think in this business, I think if you're it's got to be straightforward. And this is the only way it can possibly be. I think you're setting yourself up for disaster.
Do you think part of this is you've got Chris as your partner? He has a distinctive skill set. You have one as well. The two complement one another. So something that you may miss, he'll catch and vice versa.
100%. And not only is it two of us, there's four of us. And then I would say we are a very collaborative group with all of our managers and all of our employees. So, I mean, while sometimes we lament that we sit in meetings all day long, we do sit around and beat it about until kind of everyone agrees. I don't think you'll ever have one of our employees be like, hey, we shoved this deal down your throat. Y'all were telling us it sucked, but we were made to do it. Everybody's in there. And I'm not saying everybody has 100% buy-in, but, we have vetted it and batted it about pretty well. So we have not only ourselves as sounding boards, but we have, the other generation and all of our trusted partners in our business.
I should have asked this at the beginning just to set you guys up as the authority. Can you tell us a little bit about where you're building right now, typically what you are building, what your average number of doors are per year, and what the price point is? Like, is there a sweet spot for you guys, like 500 to 700? What is that exactly?
It's kind of a changing picture right now. If you took our 23, 24, we're in the mid 300s to 400 homes. We're probably an average price point of right around 5, maybe just tipping over 5. We also do a fair amount of build for rent, both where we are the seller or the promote in it, and also where we're just a fee builder for a couple of partners that we have. And so, you take last year, we sold about 420-ish units. I should know that number exactly, but it's somewhere around there. But then we built another 800 units for other people. So, we're running a company that's running at a fairly big size, building over 1,000 units a year. And so that was all to say the size of the company then. We are shifting our focus, and I think you would probably hear this from other people, where evaluating where townhomes need to fit into our thing. And if we're doing townhomes now, they are true townhome locations. And we are migrating, slightly up in price to fairly up in price. Because I think where our company shows value is our altogether more. We offer, better feel, better value, better design in some cases. And that's where that logo is that we're altogether more in many different ways, not just one way. And it's not always the same way. So I think you're going to see in the next 2 years, our average price point move closer to the high 6s to 7s in where we're going to be delivering. And it also moves us a little bit more out of the fray with some of our larger competitors.
Well, it seems you've diversified yourself in such a way that you're not reliant on any one particular market sector. So if there's a shift, you don't get eviscerated like some of the other, let's say the smaller builders. But if you've got your fingers in many pies, if you get burnt a little on this side, you try to compensate for the other ones. Is that fair to say?
I think it is. If you look at last year, and it's probably be a little bit different this year, we've kind of got 3 major segments. We do townhouses, we do active adult, and then we do traditional single family. And within the traditional single family, there's a variety of different sizes and prices of houses. And so that's been good to have a little bit of differentiation in the markets. And then we build in the panhandle of Florida as well. Our corporate office is in Panama City Beach, and we build all the way from Tallahassee over to Walton County. And so similar down there, we have been in the lower price point down there, but we've got 5 or 6 projects coming out of the ground now that go anywhere from probably, Chris, what would you say? We got a townhouse deal in Tallahassee that's in the low 4s, but a lot of detached product that's going to be 5, 6s, 7s. And then we've even got we got a project not too far from the ocean in Blue Mountain. That's probably going to be $1.5 million. So we're just trying to stay. I think Chris has touched on it there. Our altogether more us doing just a little different from what the big guys do. A little bit more design, a little bit more choices. We're just trying to stay out of the fray, kind of do our own thing, and find markets that people can see the value and are willing to pay for that extra little bit of quality that we provide.
I think I must have breathed in when you said something, Cliff. You said something about active adults communities or something like that. I missed that. What's it, like a swinging single? What kind of community is that you guys are up to?
Something sort of like that. But active adult communities, we've got several now, 55 plus. And so most of them that we do are deed restricted. And so there's some federal fair housing laws that will allow a few people under 55 to be in there. But for the most part, it is for active adult lifestyles. They focus on, it's mostly single story houses. Some of them have got walk-ups that have bonus rooms and extra bedrooms up there. But for the most part, they want to be good locations. They want amenities. And so it's been a really good sector for us. It gets kind of price points generally kind of from the mid 5s to probably the high 7s in the ones that we do. But it has been a lot of cash buyers. So they have been not quite as rate sensitive as some of our other buyers have been.
As we get closer to that 55 plus and all of our friends are like, I think they should change that to like 75 and up. We're like, no, let's keep that as broad as we can.
The wheelchair running track in the background, that should have been a dead giveaway, I guess. Yeah.
That's right.
Have you found, I'm trying to phrase this in the right way, in terms of the developments of what you do, like when you're planning out a home, was there any one particular style or any one particular plan that you were looking at and you thought, let's add this and see what happens? Where I'm going with this, I interviewed a builder in Arizona. He's just outside of Scottsdale. And he added, because he identified his market was mostly snowbirds and people that were coming to retire in Arizona, he added these big gnarly garages that you'd be able to back in your big, 29-foot or 39-foot trailer into. And it was a risk because nobody was doing that in the neighborhood, let alone in that area or that town. So he gambled on it and it was a home run for him. Like, has there been something like that you guys have kind of tripped on and said, well, let's give it a shot, see where it goes? And it really worked out?
That is a great question.
Not that
you can't say we provided electricity or running water or flush toilets. That doesn't count, but something more
we were the first
innovative.
people to do active adult in Atlanta. We were not. I don't know. There was one and we weren't a leader on it, but I think of things we tried that seemed to have worked was in North Fulton, the market, buyers wanted a potential prayer room.
This is the one that came to my.
Yeah. So we did something that, to a buyer who wants this to be a prayer room, we had a prayer room option. So I think that was, and we definitely didn't come up with that idea, but we saw it and said, hey, that fits this market. That is good. And that is needed here. And so, we moved to offer that. We don't have any more up in that market right now, but that was probably the most step out thing we've done in the way of, hey, this is something nobody else is offering.
A prayer room. So is it fair to say you guys are like strong of faith? Like, are you religious based in what you do?
Yes, I would say we are, definitely have a strong religious background in our family and in the way we run the company and the way we try to treat our employees.
And I gotta, it feels so sad that I've got to be so political about how I ask a question. It feels like I'm juggling a porcupine here, right? Like to come out and say that you've got Christian values. The reason I say that, because you kind of opened this door, the same builder that I talked about in Arizona, successful builder, he does about 300 doors a year. And I said, every builder would like to believe that the trajectory from where they started to where they are today was just like a nice, smooth line. But I said, there must have been a time where your back was against the wall and you thought, you know what, I just can't do this any further. And so I asked him that question, and with tears in his eyes, he said, at that point, I just gave it up to God. And he said, I let Jesus into my life. And I said, okay, wonderful concept. He was a carpenter, but I don't think he's going to show up on the job site to work as a general manager for you. So how did you instill that into your company? And he said, it just became a founding principle of who we are. And then moving forward, when we were hiring people, we would explain, here's what our culture is about, here's what we believe in. And he was amazed at the caliber of people that were attracted to his company as a result of declaring what their company was all about.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. I don't know that we even instilled it as that much on a day-to-day, more just the way that I think the way that we treat people, be, kindness to others and things like that. So I don't know that ours is quite that moment by moment based. And I do think coming out of the Great Recession, I mean, you talk about your back against the wall. I mean, there was a time that there was almost no more trading. I mean, we got right down to the very end. And so, just a lot of praying and a lot of days sitting around worrying. And, you really did get to that point that you go, hey, look, if God wants us to continue with this business, then, this is something's going to happen. We're going to figure something out. And sure enough, we did after, many, I mean, we could also, a lot of sleepless nights, and a lot of trials and tribulations.
But I will add to that. And funny timing on that. I'm actually leading a men's group discussion tomorrow, and it's about, in a divisive time in our country, of how do you stand up for what you believe while showing love, right? And not be, because I get so tired of watching debates where you're an idiot, I'm only right, and not saying, hey, look, this is what I believe, and I love you regardless of what you believe, but here's why I think you're wrong, and having reasonable discussions. But, we did go through, I talked about, we recapitalized. We definitely had a time where I'd 100% make the decision in my mind, or the statement in my mind of, hey, look, clearly I'm not doing this good, so take me where you're going. I have a Bible verse stuck up there that says, make me know your ways, O Lord. And so that's kind of like, hey, look, and we have this discussion in a group of, very rare, that I don't think God's ever said, hey, go right? It's nudges and leanings, and it's allowing that to be a part of your life. And to go into my discussion tomorrow, like, I'm glad you brought that up, because we dance around it and we don't say that, when I think what we're called to do is say out loud that, that is what we believe, and that is how we believe. So yeah, it is a part of who we are.
Yeah. During the wonderful days of COVID, I live in a train station, about a 150-year-old train station. And when I bought it, it was a banquet hall. And so we ran it as a banquet hall for 5 years. And then my consulting business took off, real estate and everything else. And then I had this epiphany: why am I letting all these strangers into my home? So we shut down the banquet hall and converted what was the hall into a big, great, gnarly great room. And the train station has served as my house now for the past 25 years. But during COVID, just prior, we started a major reno. And at one point, two parts of the station, there was the banquet hall part and then the living quarter part. So two separate buildings. We opened up the wall, put in these big post and beam, like a staircase. But before that was there, everything was open up to the crawl space. And to get to the second floor, I had a ladder that I would climb up. And there was a lot of personal stuff happening at the time, and I turned to the bottle. Right? It just kind of happened that way. And I couldn't get to sleep at night because I got into this habit now of watching the late movies. I'm not saying porn, but I just had to watch a movie to calm my brain down. So I'm getting to bed 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock, and it's dark rum and orange juice. Orange juice was just the delivery mechanism to get the rum in there. And I remember one fateful night as I'm going up the ladder, it was a 3-way conversation between God, gravity, and concrete, because the thing started shifting back. And I don't know how I did it, but somehow I managed to throw my body back into the ladder. It hit the landing. I climbed up, went to bed. Next morning, I poured everything out. And that was about 6 a.m. Next morning, I got out and I started going for walks. The train station isn't like a country area, like rural. And I would pose a question. I would just throw it out there. And I guess that would be the definition of insanity, talking to yourself. But then I would get an answer. Like, these walks would go for about 45 minutes to an hour. And subsequently, I called it my conversations with God, where I would post a question. I would just let it, reverberate there in the air. And I can't say that I would always get the answer I wanted to hear, but something always came back. So again, I'm sorry we've come to a place where we can't talk about faith, but I see that being as a strong character, a pillar of what you guys stand for. So I just thought I would bring that out and showcase it. So apologies if I've offended in any way.
Not at all. Not at all. That's a great story.
Yeah. So let's bring that back to when I was talking about the culture. Like, you guys have won all kinds of awards. You've got the Kobe, OB, Guild Quality Award. I mean, you're winning them so often. I'm surprised they don't just scribe your name on the side of these things. My guess would be you're not going after awards by design. They're coming as a result of what you're doing. So this brings us back to that first question that I said, let's pin it. How do you instill the values of what you guys believe in so it goes all the way down the food chain, right down to the guys that are nailing, that are sweeping up on the job site, that they're buying into the same vision and they're not paying lip service. They actually believe in this is the way forward and what you stand for.
I think trying to let it permeate through every level of our people is what we try to do. I mean, we've got a lot of long tenured employees that have been here for a long time, and I think we try to lead by example. We try to get out in the subdivisions, as we mentioned earlier, when Dad and Melbourne are around. They're out walking houses, they're talking to the builders, they're talking to the agents. We try to do that. I find that, in this new world of where everything can be done online, you have to force yourself to do that. But I think, walking down the hall, walking back in the back, going to the break room, talking to people, just being available for people, because we're kind of down at one end of the hall. And I think there's an air to some people of, hey, oh gosh, should I go down there and talk to them? But I think we try to work really hard to have good people and let it permeate all the way down. Hey, look, if you got an idea, come on down here. I mean, there's nothing scary happening down here. So in trying to be seen out in the neighborhoods and try to, just try to exude that positivity and, hey, we're proud of what we do. We have always been proud of it. You guys need to be proud of it too. It's something, what you do is making people's lives better. You're giving them wonderful homes and communities to live in, and we need to be proud of ourselves. And I think those accolades that we win, like you said, it's kind of a byproduct of the success that we have in our people. But I do think everybody needs a little bit of affirmation sometimes. And so it's not that awards, oh gosh, we won an award. Hey, we won this year. But I do think it helps your organization feel like, hey, we feel like we do a good job. It's good to have somebody acknowledge that and recognize it. So I think that helps build people all the way down to the lowest level of our guys that are sweeping out houses or whatever. They're doing a good job, and not only us telling them, but being recognized by outside people. So Chris, I don't know if that's a good answer or not, but that's kind of how I think of it.
Yeah, I look at sometimes I'm very envious of my friends who have businesses that are like they read a book every other day and they have all these great methods to which they have to instill downwards. And ours is, like Cliff said, just incredibly organic in having people see how we treat everybody every day. There's no mission statement when somebody walks in that says, here's what we do. But I can promise you, on the last interviews I've been in, I always tell people, like on vacation, I was like, look, we're here to build houses and to make money and provide great houses for people. At the end of the day, though, if you have a child's sporting event, band concert, I want you to be at that event, right? Now, I don't want to find out that your child has a sporting event every afternoon at 3:30, but I want you to, enjoy those parts of your life because, that's what it's about. And I think when we have employees who have personal issues, I just think it's seen by everybody, and we don't send out a postcard of here's what we did to help this person, but it's just kind of, hey, we heard what was done. And I just think they see it and know it. And then again, to the point of, we have people who've been here so long that they've seen it for so many years. It's not like we're trying to get 75 new employees to see how we do. We've got a lot of long tenured people who are like, hey, that's the way we work here. That's the way we live here.
Yeah, interesting, Chris, that you say they've been here for so long. Is there any kind of incentive program that you have in place that incentivizes them to stay, like buy into the company or anything like that?
Nope, just nice people. I mean, I believe we compensate very fairly, but no, I've looked at that, and we see other people who you build up $10,000 a year, and if you try and leave at year 10, you got $100,000 sitting there, and you don't want to leave that. And maybe we should have something that in place, but no, I think our people are here because, and quite frankly, that's how we attract some people is, yeah, you can go to a big national builder and you can make more, but call me back in 3 years when tell me how life is, and we want you to enjoy your life and come here and make good money.
Yeah, something about being worked like a mule and not appreciated probably doesn't resonate well with employees. Yeah. Let's do a lane change here and go back to acquisition. When you guys are looking at a new build, like obviously you and I were talking about this earlier, Chris, like a D.R. Horton's they own more land than God, probably in Florida. How are you guys able to buy land at this point, or do you already have it put aside? And then when you're looking at a potential project, what are the green lights that you're looking at before you move forward?
So right now we've got between 4 and 5 years worth of lot supply under control. And it's depending on, we've got some other things that are kind of, maybe a little less likely that would maybe give us more than that we're still kind of working through. And so we've got a great team that underwrites. We've got an underwriting methodology that we do. We look at school districts. We look at months of supply. There's kind of the baseline that you look at. We try to be opportunistic, but we also try to find those areas that we can show our value, as I mentioned earlier, kind of that next step up. So when you look at some of the most prolific submarkets, especially around Atlanta, that they turn the most units, where all the big boys are. And that's just really, we'll look at opportunities there, but that's kind of when I look at a piece of property in, I don't know, somewhere in Gwinnett County, and I go, okay, Pulte's across the street, DR Horton's down the street, Lennar's right there, and Century is right there, and it's a more commoditized type situation. We try to avoid those. So we try to go to those school districts and price points that'll bring higher, location, good access, good schools have always been. And then the next thing we go to is supply. That's a huge driver for us. And so those are some of the initial things that we look at as we jump in there. And so we are not quite as focused as some of these guys are. Hey, these are 22-foot townhouses. We will design product for a great opportunity. And so I do think that's something that makes us a little bit more nimble. It lets us in some deals that the big guys won't do, something that's just a little bit out of the box. And so we do try to take some of those. So we'll take some smaller deals here or there if it's in submarkets that can be very profitable. So, there's a template, but it's not such a rigid template. There's metrics that the deal's got to meet, but there's not this template that there's a box. And if it's halfway into the box, halfway out, it's cut. It's not like that. It's much more entrepreneurial, which I like.
So you guys are big enough that you can leverage a storm, but you're nimble enough that you can move quickly in the market and adapt.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we finance everything. We do predominantly bank financing. We've got a lot of good banks, big kind of super regional banks, several of them. We've got some bigger local banks that we deal with. We have got some great equity partners that are just rinse and repeat. We just keep doing. They have been fantastic with us. And so we've kind of got our financing mechanisms are there. Our CFO, Tim Ornament, does an amazing job. He brought yet another level of sophistication to that. His modeling is second to none. My land team, they can all work a lot better than I can. So it's very complicated, but it's really, really good. And so the financing side, we've got the powder to grow. We don't go out and we try to spend as little earnest money up front as we can. We do all the due diligence that we need, but we do try to watch things, even though we've become a pretty large company. We try to watch our money like what it is. It's our money. And that's another thing I think we try to instill in our employees is, hey, this is not somebody in Detroit or somebody in California's money. This is the Four Postons' money that's sitting at the end of this hall. So y'all, and I think that's a real testament to that. I think all of our employees treat it like that. They treat it like it's their money. And so, we try to do that on the land side from expenditures. We try to put up as little earnest money. We try to tie it up for as long as we can, reasonably and not mistreat sellers, but to get everything to where we know of 100% sure before we make that financial commitment that every box is checked, every I's dotted, T's crossed.
Cliff, what was the name that you just threw out there? He's the one that's doing your modeling for you?
Tim Ornament.
Yeah, I have to set him up with our COO at Sound Capital. He's done over 40,000 builds that he's funded. It would be interesting to put them in a room together with a handful of crayons and see what they come out with.
Would love to connect them. Like I said, Tim is flying up here. I understand the metrics of what we do very, very well, but some of his modeling is super next level. So we'd love to connect him. We're always looking for good sources of financing. You can never have too much money.
Has there ever been a build that, how do I say it politely, that you've kind of, I don't want to say undervalued, that, okay, we're doing this build, but the result of it, in terms of profit, how quickly it sold out just astonished you, how quickly and how well it went. It was almost like it was predestined to be, versus some of the other builds that you get into, like every day seems to be drudgery. But there's that one that really stands out that was a home run on every level.
Probably a couple of them. Tap Farm is in my mind. It had 3 product types that were all selling at least 2 a month. So it was...
Sorry, Chris, Fat Farm?
Tap. the Tap
I thought this
family.
goes back to your active seniors again. Okay. You guys are
No.
at cutting edge at that. Yeah. Okay.
No, Tap Farm, the Tap family owned it, and we named it after them. But it was really good. And then you go back to olden days where I think we laid sod at the entrance, but started with an A. What was it out in West Cobb?
Aaron Moore.
And Dad said we would write 10 contracts on the first day of the month and shut it down, and start back the next month and write 10 contracts on the first day of the month and shut it down for the month.
We had a number of projects, I think, during COVID and I look back at the COVID times that we underwrote to the Tap Farms that Chris mentioned. I'm going to say we underwrote that and thought between the three product lines, if we can average, Chris, my memory's not that great, if we can average 400 amongst those three, that will be fantastic, the top of that market. And when you took the average sales price of the three of them, we probably averaged, what, Chris, 550, 570. Now, we had cost overruns, but over the time, so we've had several during that 21, 22, 23 timeframe that just, really with demand, supply being low and demand being high, prices really, really escalated beyond anywhere that we thought that they would. So we're ready for those times to come back.
Our first for sale deal in Florida, we bought. And when we bought it, the lots and everything, we were going to be able to sell in the 400s to 500s, and we felt good. And this was COVID, and this was skyrocketing prices, and this was our first build that we thought we had our numbers locked down there, and we didn't. And the market had pushed the prices up 25% over what we had underwritten on it. The cost, luckily, it had pushed what we could sell them for about 50% up. And so we ended up selling, we thought the ones on the water might sell in the 6s. They sold in the 9s. We thought the ones interior would be in the 4s. They sold in the 7s. So, that ended up being a good deal, by no means a phenomenal deal. But when you look at deals that you're like, oh my God, we were covered right there by grace and divinity, probably, because had the market not gone up with us, we'd have been in trouble.
Well, yeah, COVID times, they were crazy because lumber went up, everything went up, and some builders were completely caught. But they're committed; they had to build. So, but you guys, do you want to call that dumb luck and experience? What's the magic sauce that helped you get through that?
I think we picked good submarkets.
Well, and we never sold way too far ahead.
That's
we
true.
Didn't get drunk on the oh my God, I can take 14 contracts this month. We're like, hey, and that's probably where you get into Dad and Milburn telling us, hey guys, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. That's great. We can write 10 contracts. Let's only write 5, or let's only write 6. And so we didn't get so far sold ahead to where we were delivering lumber on something that we sold a year ago and prices had gone up 20%.
Do you find that you temper one another in respect? Like maybe, Chris, you get really excited about something and then Cliff says, let's just let some of the air out of that balloon and have a second look, and vice versa?
Probably the
Other way
reverse
around.
of that.
Other way around.
He's the pusher.
So Cliff is the dreamer? Okay.
He's the pusher salesman. I'm the, we have to execute and do this, and have we thought of all the problems?
So fair to say that Cliff would be like the big shiny balloon, and you're the string that keeps him grounded?
That's probably a pretty good analogy.
That's exactly that. That's exactly right.
So dig in kind of personally, has there ever been kind of a clash where you're really adamant about one thing and then Chris is really adamant about another, where there's that line, you just, I'm drawing the line in the sand, I won't cross it? Or have you always been able to work it out one way or the other?
I think we've got a pretty good back and forth. I think that we both, have a sense of where the other one's line is as you get into discussing these things. Like I said, we spend a lot of time sitting around, whether it's Chris and I both have couches in our rooms, so whether I go in his office or he comes in mine, or whether we're sitting around the conference room table. I mean, we beat these things around. I mean, we beat around every aspect of the business. And so, we have a pretty good idea of, I think, where each other stands. There'll be an expenditure I maybe want to make sometimes, and Chris goes, now's not the time, or there's a deal I want to push the boundaries on and say, hey, look, this is only showing a 16% margin right now, but I really think it's got some real upside. And, Chris, and then Dad Milburn, hey, look, let's sit down and, let's weigh that upside. Is it worth the gamble? And so I think we've done enough beating things around over the years and going through the downturn and doing it for so long. I think we have a pretty good idea of where each other's lines are. And you can kind of tell, it's like with your wife a little bit, you can kind of tell when, hey, I'm going to stick my toe in the water on this and see how it's received. and you kind of find out relatively quickly, hey, I might have a chance of getting this, or no, I need to reverse ground. So I think it's a little bit like that because we spend an awful lot of time with each other, and I think we got a pretty good sense of where each other's lines are.
I grew up with two brothers, so I'd like to say I was raised by wolves. I had an older brother, younger brother. Do you ever, for just fun, like to poke them just to see what happens and then run away?
I don't know. This business is too hard to do that. I don't know. It's too hard to create any angst that doesn't need to be there, to be honest with you.
There's plenty of natural, there's enough natural angst not to create any unneeded angst.
That's well said.
All right. And tell me about, you won this award for best neighborhood, Avonbrook, in 2025. Tell me about that one. How did that come to be? What's the design? What do you think was the real winning formula that got you that adulation?
Well, that's another one that's an interesting story about where we thought we could be price point wise. So that was a piece, it was a relationship that my dad had from Dad Milburn grew up in Smyrna, which is near here. And it was a relationship that they had, a family had owned this, and it was actually an industrial piece. It was kind of got landlocked behind the neighborhood and then kind of got landlocked. And so it just kind of sat there. We kind of talked to him about it for years and we thought, yeah. And so we made him a very low offer based on all the hurdles. And, we went in and tried to get it, and he accepted it. And we went in and tried to get it zoned and just had trials and tribulations. And gosh, we didn't get enough density. This isn't going to work. So we tried kind of a product. We went a little bit higher end than we had originally thought. And it's just kind of the school district is just okay. But that's another one where we went in and, we put our best foot forward with a nice entrance, a great amenity. The land laid good, and all of a sudden it got traction. I mean, people liked the houses, they liked it, and it was well received. And that's another one. We probably average transaction in there was probably every bit of $100,000 higher than what we originally underwrote it at. And it just had that. And as you look back, I think there was just very little detached product in that submarket. Everybody had tried to go super low end and go with townhouses, and nobody had come in there and really tried to provide a bigger lot with a bigger house. And so I think as you look at it with its proximity to Smyrna Vinings and the perimeter, it was kind of that next step. And even though it was more than we thought it was going to be, it was still a very affordable price point for that size lot and that size home.
When you look into the future right now, let's say 5 years from now, and I think we kind of alluded to this earlier, is there a direction in terms of the type of build that you'll be leaning more towards? Like, will it be more townhomes? And the buzzword they use now, and I hate it, but it's obtainable housing. Is that something you'll be focused on more?
Well, the pricing attainability is it's across all levels of it, right? There's attainable for the lowest thing, but it's also, the middle of the market is unattainable. And again, so I think that applies to all. And also I think it's funny because Clif was actually on a attainability task force. We live in a world where it's a great buzzword, but the people who control it, being our governmental friends, don't want to do anything to address it. So we look at the fact, development with just codes, and some of them are there to do good, but some of them don't do any good other than add cost. And that's probably, on any one of our deals, $25,000 a lot that's not needed. I mean, we talked about it the other day. We have one in City of Marietta, which I probably not supposed to say the names of where we're doing it, but we have to put rock underneath the curb. That's a new thing they want so that curbs don't settle at all. We're like, how often do we see curbs falling into the ground? Not a lot, but that added $2,000 a lot in cost to this deal that we're looking at. And it's like, it doesn't need to be there. So we can't say on one hand, I got to have attainable housing, and yet you make us put in thicker asphalt and paving specs because it'll make it where you don't have to replace it for 30 years instead of 20 years. And so totally not the way you asked the question, but I did want to rail on attainability for a minute. We're probably going back to that, our view of the next 5 years, especially as long as it takes to do land, because we're already buying land that will be, hitting in the middle of that 5 years, is to be in that upper price point. So I will say it's probably from the fives, and not that we won't have things below that, but from the fives to $1 million, and offering that, production ability of speed and buying power while trying to offer the ability to personalize your house. And, so it's a place, I'll reference the one down in Florida in Blue Mountain. We're going to be selling 1.3 million, 1.4 million houses, but we're going to be the value because those other houses that have roughly the same square footage with the pool we have are selling at $1.8 million. Well, we're coming in and we're giving you, how a builder that knows how to do production can get some of those efficiencies and provide you what we believe is still a very, very good house in the location you want to be, at a better price than you can get it from a super custom build.
So you've got I guess that formula is dialed in. You've got the production value, the efficiency, but then you also have the quality, which is the crucial thing, because you can build an affordable house, but it's crap inside. But somehow it seems like you guys, and correct me if I'm wrong here, you found that sweet spot where you can put all three together.
I think that's the magic sauce. Yeah, we met with a seller today that has some lots, and he came in, a very wealthy guy, and he bought basically the whole rest of this neighborhood about 15 years ago. And there was probably 6 or 7 houses in there that they're all 6,000 or 7,000 square foot houses. They're $1.5 million houses, and he wants to sell the rest of the lots in there. And his daughter suggested that he talk to Traton, because she has owned 2 houses in the past, and she said they do a fantastic job. They're probably not going to build as big as these houses are, but they'll make you proud. And so we met with this man today, a very nice man, and he just said, my kids all live here, and I'm going to die here, and I love it, and I want to go to somebody that's going to do the right thing. And he said, I realize where my house is priced is not where the market is, but he said, I know you guys, I can trust y'all to do something really, really nice. And so that's why I came to y'all, because you can do them all. You can afford to do them all, as opposed to a custom builder who can do 1 or 2. So you guys have got the horsepower to do it, but you've got the eye on quality and the knowledge and the been there, done that to kind of come in there and do something that's going to preserve the integrity of my neighborhood. So that made me feel good about us, that they kind of came to us because of that.
I got to say, all the trophies and accolades aside, when somebody says, I trust you, that's got to be the gold standard that warms you up.
It is. And I tell you, we leverage that. We never talk bad about anybody, but I tell you, when we go to these sellers, a lot of times, not just on this side of town, but everywhere, we leverage that of, hey, we've built 19,000 houses or pushing that, and we've been doing this 55 years, but, call and check on us. I mean, the decisions are made right off the square in Marietta. Call and ask our bankers, call and ask, municipalities about us. Ask anybody. The Postons are going to do what they say they're going to do. And, this is not some guy, some fat cat in some other part of the company that's got to go through, all these things. The decision makers are here, and we have a track record of executing and doing what we say we're going to do. And we leverage, I tell my land guys, leverage the heck out of that. I mean, they got the money.
They can ask all those people, but the person to ask is the one that bought that home and trusted you and has moved in. They would be, I would think, your biggest raving fans.
Absolutely.
We met with some agents last week trying to just talk with different agents to understand what they're seeing in the market and all that. And I did love hearing from one of them. She said, I'm reselling one of your houses. And she said, I made sure to put in the listing, it's a Traton house. And she said, because in my mind, and I think in a lot of agents' minds, especially in our part of the world, she said, they know that means it's going to have held its value better than some other houses. And I just thought that was cool that she said, hey, yeah, if I'm reselling a Traton house, I'm absolutely putting that in the listing that it's a Traton house.
Wow. Well, okay, so there's another door you open. Let me step into it. When it comes to the actual sales of your properties, do you have an internal sales team? Do you partner up with realtors to represent you? Is it a hybrid? How do you do that? And then also the next part of that, are they responsible for the marketing as well and follow up and everything?
So no, we have an internal sales team. We have a vice president of sales and marketing. We have our in-house broker. So we handle every aspect of sales and marketing. And we have a director of marketing. We do partner with some outside PR and that type firms, but no, we it's all originated here and driven here. And then, we tell our agents we're going to drive all the marketing that's out in the public, but you drive your internal marketing that's, helping the bottom of the funnel get to you.
So talking about the sales process, that when you're doing the marketing, and one of the biggest mistakes builders make is they blur the line between what marketing is and what advertising is. Advertising is you sitting by your pool saying, I'm a wonderful builder, versus direct response advertising, where there's a science behind it, is motivating the prospective buyer to put up their hand and say, yeah, there's something about what you just said that I want. So when it comes to that side of the marketing aspect, Are you leveraging technology at all? So like right now, AI is the biggest thing for lead acquisition and follow-up and nurturing. Is that something that you have in the mix? Or is it traditional outbound that a lead comes in and your sales team will basically follow up with them until they buy or die?
We are moving into the AI space. And so we're not there yet, but I have a call tomorrow with the group to hear their thing. We are actually just starting our first online marketing, which will be driven with some AI function to that. So we're moving there. I reached out to all of my department heads, and I love AI, and I use all of those things that I can. And I said, hey guys, the business is going to move there, and we don't have to lead it, but let's understand it, and let's try and see how we can use what that can do. And good and bad, we've had people here a long time, so I may be shoving, pushing, and pulling, but I do think AI can do a lot across every aspect of our business.
Chris, if I got a gal for you to talk about too, and then it's not one of your swinging adult communities, but this is what she does. She's the AI sales specialist for new homes, and we'll talk about that more after the call. Since we've opened that door, building metaphor, AI, what do you see as the impact of AI and the technology in building right now? And again, I'll just throw that arbitrarily 5 years from now. Are we still going to be doing sticks? Is it going to be more 3D printed? Is it going to be modular? Do you see that having an impact on how you guys are building in the next 5 years?
Chris, that's probably more your world than mine.
Yeah, I love love to watch the videos on the 3D printed ones. I still think that's cost wise a bit out. Totally my opinion. I think you're fighting, in my opinion, all sorts of things on AI. One is, and I'm going bigger than just the home building thing, how do we leverage AI without replacing our entire workforce? Because we'll find ourselves in a bad spot if we let AI do all of it and we have nobody to buy our products anymore because we don't have jobs. So that's how I view it, is how do we make our workers more efficient, more productive, and do that. And maybe even, and that's probably part of more productive, more accurate. We listened to a pitch today from a group, and their AI thing, when you're doing takeoffs and everything, you give a parameters of how you want something built. And then even if it's not the same 6x6 room, it knows how you want to build the wall. And so when you change the shape of the wall, it says, here's the parameters that you gave me on how to build that wall. Here's how many studs you have now. I think from that, there's the one we're doing tomorrow is a sales one, and it basically listens to all of your sales conversations and takes, his name just went out of my head, but sales gurus principles, and says, hey, here's how you're following them. Here's how you're not following them. Here's what this buyer said were key points that you should follow up on. And, and that's just things that it can do. And that's not going to replace that salesperson. But, and that's the hard thing to me. Like, I'm not perfect. I 100% no, I'm not perfect. If something can tell me every time I make a mistake so I can listen to it and try not to do that the next time, I think that's a great thing. Whereas you just have to get people.
But that's what wives are for, isn't it? Like that's why I got married.
Absolutely.
But you just have to have people who are willing to take, input and not say, hey, I don't want a computer telling me what to do. It's like, no. Don't have to take everything it says as 100% right. But if you can't listen to feedback and go, okay, yeah. So that's what I see as big right now, is in reviewing takeoffs, we've been playing around with ChatGPT and building underwriting models we have Lewis Pride, who's in Clif's department. He's young and he's a great land analyst. And so I was like, man, we both love ChatGPT, and we're like, we can create a land analyst in here, give it our parameters, give it the information, and then tell it to spit out our report. And now he doesn't not do his report still, but he has that to go, man, that's great the way it looked at this or the way it thinks about that. And then you incorporate that into how we normally do it. And I think you're good. And the amazing thing is it does it in 3 seconds versus 5 hours.
Right. Yeah.
The first AI that you were talking about, is that Toggle?
I'm trying to remember which one I talked about first. The takeoff one?
Yeah.
It was Hierarch.
There's this one. So I interviewed.
I heard about Toggle. I'm in a Builder 20 group that came up as well.
Yeah, the guy, you can literally just put it on a cocktail napkin. Here's my kind of floor plan. And then it will take that and it'll look at a database of about 400,000 homes
Yeah.
And we'll say, okay, we can build it very similar. And to your point, here's where you can save money on studs and everything.
Yeah.
But then the next iteration of that is not only does it tell you about the build, but once you put in your zip code, it'll tell you about everything you need to know about zoning and requirements. And that's all on your phone.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Guys, I think we've covered a lot of territory here. Anything that I've missed that you kind of want to noodle around a little?
I think we've covered it pretty well.
Okay, I got a couple left here. Chris, I want you to pretend that we've got, for lack of a better word, like a Wayback Machine, where you can go back in time. And knowing what you know now, if you could go back in time to a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed Clif who hasn't really decided if building is what he wants to do, what kind of advice would you give him from what you know today to the guy back then?
Oh, I'm probably gaming the system here. I would tell him in 2007, when the world seems like it's going to fall apart, go borrow every penny you can borrow and buy every lot you can buy, because in 2009 and 10, you'll make money on that, right? So we saw that happen, and that's how I would get a super rich, because we saw people do that. Is we had one guy describe it as, I backed up to the bank with a dump truck full of money and I bought every lot they had. So I would tell him, hang on, it's going to look really bad. Buy everything you can buy.
By now.
I know
my
you
dad
wanted me
was-
you wanted me to give him career advice. I was trying to make us more money.
No, hell no. You could tell him what girls to date. I don't care. You're talking to your brother like I talked to mine. But it just prompted a story. My dad, that the entrepreneurial spirit I got from him, because he came to Canada back, it would have been 55, off the boat from Ukraine with nothing. My mother and two my siblings, younger brother and sister. And back then, before you got into the country, you had to be vetted. You had to be able to speak the language, and you had to have a sponsor. 3 crucial things. And from that, he was able to climb up the ladder and get us up into upper middle income, I guess, if you want to call it that. Started his own business in air compressors. And this one story that he told me, it still makes me laugh today. He's been gone since 2007. But some guy comes knocking on the door through all the businesses there, and he's selling stock. And my dad is old school. Like, if he can't touch it, feel it. He was always big on buying land. That's just the way they were taught as peasants. It's all in the land. What am I going to do with these pieces of paper? The guy was selling IBM stock. Right. So looking back, it was just one of those. Yeah. Anyway,
Dad,
Clif, I'm going to ask you the same
can buy.
question, but yeah, let me repurpose it. So, starry-eyed Clif, right? Young, impressionable. What would be the question that you wanted to ask Chris looking into the future, if you could?
Oh gosh, a question that I would ask him. Obviously, I would ask him for that roadmap to success here. So I'm gonna flip that a little bit. The thing that I think that I wish that somebody would have told me, I'm gonna come at it that way. I think Chris and I, and it came a little bit from Dad Milburn, who kind of had their heads down and did not really believe as much in networking. I think this industry, and I think business at all, is so much, it's about hard work, but it's about who you know and the relationships that you meet and leveraging those relationships. It would be something between that and something that I've seen one of our partners do very well is use other people's money as much as you can. Take a little piece. Don't put all of your nest egg at risk. Put a little bit in and find somebody else that believes in your dream and repeat that. Make other people money and increase your little stake. So those are I didn't answer your question at all, but I'm giving you 2 pieces of advice that I probably would give my children, or if Chris came to me, if I could have his question, what would you tell him? I would say, get out and know as many people starting in college, because I look now at how many, bankers and lawyers and, just people that we can reach out and touch. And I think the more, the better. And so I do. Those would be, again, didn't answer your question at all, but I answered Chris's question from earlier. Those are the 2
You're
things
a good
I would
dancer,
tell
my friend. A damn good dancer, that's for sure. If I were to
Politician
sum it up, yeah, you're saying the bigger
Politician.
the net, the more fish you're going to catch. So
There you
I've got
go.
one more question. I think you guys will appreciate this. And it's something that I wish doesn't happen for decades and decades and decades to come. But one morning, the two, you wake up and you're at Heaven's Gate. And there's St. Peter. He's holding an iPad. And he pulls you 2 over. He says, come over here. I want to show you something. And he's scrolling through. And on the iPad, it's basically your life stories. And he's looking at Chris and he kind of frowns a little bit. And then a little video comes up of you, Clif, and he smiles and he laughs and he keeps going. And then he just stops abruptly and he looks at both of you and he says, no, Not today. You're not getting in because you haven't finished. What's that thing, that one thing you guys haven't finished?
Wow.
It's a deep question.
That is a deep question.
That's why you get paid the big bucks.
Oh,
I would say we have been through so many difficult economic times in our lives. So I think as Chris described, and this is not going to be about money at the end of the day, we earned our way into the business. The world ended. We put all of our money collectively back into the business and we recapitalized, and we're just kind of earning our way back to having, a good where we want to be. I want to be able to give more and feel like I left, an impact on my community and kind of on my fellow man. Did I do everything that I could do? I feel like I probably been raising kids and bar businesses, and I probably haven't given enough of my time and my income to those kinds of things. And so that's probably right now. If I said, hey, if it was over tomorrow, what did you not have time to do? On top of spending more time with my family, of course, but that I do a lot of that, and I would have no regrets as far as that goes. That's probably my answer.
well, I'm going to dance much like Cliff did and say that I hope that I will have realized the things that I haven't done, and much along Cliff's line. And I think, I don't want to make it sound like I'm jumped. One of my, I'm stumbling here. There was a Bible verse I had to give in an interview. I did another one, and it was Luke, and I've lost it, but it's to whom much is given, much is expected. Basically, that's the gist of it. And I used to think that was, I need to write big checks to people, right? I need to do that. And through this men's group that I'm in, that's not just doing that. That's your time. It's probably the bigger thing that you can give. While everybody wants your check, if you take the things that mean something to you and you give your time to it, that's what I'm trying to do more of, right? And that can be my son's lacrosse team that needs somebody with a business sense to help figure out how we raise money to have a great lacrosse team. That can be a Bible study I host downstairs at the office. Those things, to not just sit back and watch life happen, but go participate in trying to make everything a little better. So what I'm hoping is his iPad won't ding and will say, you did that. I'm glad you realized that ahead of time. And I think along with going through the hard times of the downturn where your mind had to be so on work, I think we have all realized, and I was like, look, I don't care what the year looks like, money coming in, there's a family vacation, and it's going to be a big family vacation, and everyone's going to be there because we can redo. The company can fold tomorrow and we can go try and start a new thing. You don't get redos on the family stuff. And as your kids get older, you especially don't get that the young. And I've got a junior in high school and a sophomore in college. So my kid times are running out, and Cliff's, but again, my dad always said, hey, when you offer to pay for the vacation, it doesn't matter how old they are, they'll still come.
Of course, you got me thinking of, what was his name now? Cheatman and Cats in the Cradle. When he's singing about his kids that are now too busy for him,
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you for being so open, so honest, and being so giving of your time today. If there's anything I can do to return the kindness, please let me know. And on that end, thanks again for all you do.
Enjoyed our time, Michael.
We appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Builder Straight Talk. Make sure to like, comment, and share this episode on your favorite social media platform. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, available wherever you get your podcast streaming fix. Until next time, keep building smarter. This episode is made possible by our parent company, Sound Capital, funding built for builders.